Good afternoon and welcome to Football League World TV. It's time for the EFL Transfer Zone show here on the channel. My name is Sam Watt, the Chief Editor of Football League World.co.uk, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Ben Wignall and Chris Gallagher, to go through all the latest transfer news and gossip from across the English Football League. Ben, how are you getting on this afternoon, mate?
Yeah, all good, Sam. We're only nearly 4 weeks away from the start of the season, aren't we? 4 weeks on Friday, and obviously teams are starting to pick up their business now with pre-season starting, so there's a lot to talk about in terms of confirmed and transfer rumours. So it's an exciting time to be an EFL fan.
Yeah, it's a jam-packed show today. I could have put so many different transfer rumours in this show today, but we got plenty to talk about. Chris, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. And yeah, as Ben says, now a month till the big kickoff, and yeah, you just think teams are really going to start picking up, and it's going to be exciting to see what sort of moves are made in the next few weeks.
We are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube, so get yourself in the live chat. We want to hear from you this afternoon. Are you happy with your club's business? And also let us know your thoughts on some of the transfers we're going to be discussing today. Let's get straight into it. Right, the first half of today's show, we're going to be looking at some done deals that have happened over the last few days. Let's start off with Burnley. They've been fairly active in these early sort of stages of the summer transfer window. Scott Twine and Luke McNally have arrived at Turf Moor as the Vincent Kompany era begins at the club. Ben, let's come to you first. Let's touch on Scott Twine first. Again, a player we've spoken about lots on Football League World TV over the last few weeks, given his really, really impressive season for MK last year. £4 to £5 million is the region that Burnley have signed the 22-year-old. On the face of it, do you think this is a good deal for the Clarets?
I think it is, yeah. I think we're used to seeing Burnley pick up more experienced players over the years, when they've been in the Premier League, and probably in the Sean Dyche system, Twine probably wouldn't have fit into, a kind of rigid 4-4-2, but I think this signing probably shows the route that Kompany wants to go, probably a more attacking, kind of 4-2-3-1 formation. He can play in the number 10, he can cut in off the left-hand side, which is probably his best position. We've seen how good he is shooting from range, and a lot of his 20 goals were from around, the outside the 18-yard box. So that's an exciting thing for Burnley fans to look forward to. And we don't know what's going to happen to, Maxwell Cornet and Dwight McNeil and how Twine will fit in. But for the fee they've paid, you can imagine he's going to be a regular starter for Burnley, and it'll be interesting to see if he can make the step up to the Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were lots of clubs interested in Scott Twine in this summer transfer window. Chris, for Scott Twine, do you think Burnley's a good move for his sort of personal development?
Yeah, I do. I think with Kompany, the way he's coming in, he's going to want to change the style, as Ben's alluded to there, and he's going to play the sort of football that will allow Twine to pick up these advanced positions without being tagged like a number 9 or out wide. He'll be able to get between the lines, and I think he will probably build the system around Twine to a degree. He'll be one of the main attacking threats, and I think it's an exciting time for Burnley, to be honest. I think the appointment is just completely different to what they're used to. The two signings that we've just touched on there are two young, they're not obviously teenagers, but they're still young players with their best years ahead of them. I think the talk of the Man City pair coming in as well, who are teenagers or young as well. So yeah, you can see the way they're going. It's a real overhaul of the playing squad, and the fans should be excited about what it's going to bring, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just touch then quickly on Luke McNally, Ben, a player that really impressed for Oxford last season, a young player, only 22 years old, a very imposing centre-half who's very comfortable bringing the ball out from defence and helping to initiate attacks. Do you think under someone like Vincent Kompany, who has had such an illustrious career in the Premier League, that McNally can sort of go to that next level at Turf Moor?
I think it can always help when you've got a world-class former centre-back managing you and coaching you. I was surprised to see how pretty much inexperienced McNally was. He only played 18 times in the League of Ireland for St Pat's before he moved to Oxford, and I think he only played 33 times for Oxford, but he's clearly on the upward trajectory. He's a good ball-playing defender. He's a decent height as well, and it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in, because, of course, Taylor Harwood-Bellis is, apparently set to sign for Burnley as well, and we don't know if Nathan Collins is going to be cashed in on, but he's definitely a good addition. It's a kind of a new way that Burnley are going. They've signed 2 players that they could make a hell of a lot of money on in a few years if they continue to develop at the rate of knots they have been, and it'll be interesting to see, like Twine, how McNally steps up to the Championship.
Burnley fans, if you're watching this, get yourself in the comments. Are you happy with the business that you have done so far this summer? Luke McNally and Scott Twine through the door at Turf Moor. Let's touch on another done deal, and let's go over to Hull City. They've completed the signing of Tobias Figuerado following his release from Nottingham Forest. The 28-year-old Portuguese centre-back was used sparingly last season at Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper, but did feature a fair amount of times and was pretty good when he came on the pitch, to be fair to him. But he has now arrived at Hull City and will be hoping to hold down a starting berth a lot more. Ben, we'll come to you first on this one. Looks like a pretty solid pickup from the Tigers on a free, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. I think the one thing we've said in the last few weeks on these shows that Hull need is experience at the back. They've got Jacob Greaves, Alfie Jones and Sean McLaughlin, who are in the early 20s, and they probably need a kind of an experienced head back there to guide them along and help them develop even further. And I think Figueredo, for what he's done for Forest in the Championship, he's a very good signing. He was playing quite a bit before Steve Cook arrived at Forest in January, and of course after that he was on the bench for the most part, but he's played to a good standard in Portugal and the Championship, and I think it's a really good addition for Hull, especially on a free transfer, and it kind of shows your ambition of where they want to be. They've made a good bid for Scott Twine last week. Obviously they weren't successful with that, but the players they've got apparently arriving as well, the likes of Ozan Tufan and potentially Jean-Michael Seri, they've kind of got a stamp of where they want to be, and this is a good start in Figueredo. Yeah,
Chris, do you echo Ben's thoughts there? On a free transfer, do you think this is a shrewd bit of business from the Tigers?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I do, exactly as he said there, with the experience that they need. I think, and as he touched on with Figueredo, it's a bit unfortunate with Cook, Worrell and McKenna, that back three for Forest from January. You're looking at like three that's really settled unit, and maybe in Worrell and McKenna, 2 of the outstanding defenders in the league. So it's not a case that he's not good enough. It's just he's not as good as some of the better players in the division. So yeah, I think it's a definite upgrade on what they've got. I think you'd partner him with Greaves as it stands at the minute, and maybe they'll be in the market for 1 or 2 more. But I'd expect him to be in the 11 for the first game of the season, and the fans should be pretty pleased with this signing.
Yeah, judging by the Hull City social media reaction, they do seem to be pretty happy with this addition at the MKM Stadium. There we go. Tobias Figueredo has joined Hull City on a free transfer. Right, Malcom, Ebiowe's future has been settled. Crystal Palace have completed the signing of the young 18-year-old from Derby County. He has signed a 5-year deal at Selhurst Park this summer. The young winger made a few fleeting appearances for Derby last season near the latter end of the campaign, really impressing with his sort of cameo appearances for Wayne Rooney's side. Ben, we'll come to you then. A player with lots of potential, potentially very high ceiling. We've seen Crystal Palace sign players of this sort of type over the last season or two in the sort of Patrick Vieira era. This looks like another good pickup from Palace, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Obviously, I don't think they've agreed a fee for Ebiowe. He might end up going to tribunal, but from what he showed in Derby in the second half of last season, obviously he was thrown in at the deep end when they couldn't make signings, and he was just kind of wasn't no experience at all. He had the experience in the 23s, but he kind of showed his natural raw ability. He's a very good dribbler. He got a goal and 2 assists by the end of the season. So he's got that end product at Championship level already. He's started to show it. And whilst I'm not sure he'll jump straight into the Crystal Palace first team like Eze and Elise have done in recent years, I think it's still in the long run a really good pickup for Palace. It won't be a big fee they'll end up having to pay, and in a few years' time, I think he could potentially end up going out on loan. That might be better for him than playing under 23s football. But they've definitely got a kind of a strong talent pool when it comes to the wingers and attacking midfielders now, especially when they've been recruiting them for the EFL.
Yeah, I mean, Palace weren't the only club interested in Ebiowe this summer. Manchester United were heavily linked with a move for the winger, but by all accounts, it was Dougie Friedman's involvement at Palace that sort of swayed him to join the South London side this summer. Chris, just finally then on Ebiowe, a really precocious talent that Palace have signed. Is he someone that you could see sort of being in and around that first team next season in the Premier League, or do you think perhaps a loan move to a Championship side might be the best way to go forwards with him?
Yeah, I think I was quite disappointed he left Derby. Obviously, the situation, even now, he wouldn't have been able to sign just yet. But I think he needed another year in the Football League, really. I think we're judging him off his time at Derby. It was only 15, 16 games. So even before that, I think he'd been with Arsenal and went to Rangers. So he's not someone that's everyone's been talking about for years and was waiting to make an impact. He kind of just benefited from Derby's situation. So, yeah, I think 15 games is a bit too small a sample size to say how good he will become. Obviously, you can say that he's got a lot of talent, but yeah, I think his next step will probably be a loan, and it's obviously Palace they know what they're doing. They'll find a good club for him where he will play, but yeah, I think that is what he needs to do: have another year in the Football League, and then to show he can do it over the course of a season, and then he'll be looking to get into the first team at Palace.
Yeah, Derby fans, get yourself in the comments. Do you think Ebiowe can make an impact in the Premier League with Palace next season? Please do let us know. Right, we're going to run through a few more done deals next. Right, we've got to speed up this show a little bit. We are running on quite a bit. But Millwall, they've been quite busy in this summer transfer window, in particular over the last few days. They have completed 3 new permanent signings. Benik, Zian Fleming and George Honeyman have arrived at the new den as Gary Rowett's side look to launch a genuine playoff push next season. Ben, let's just touch on Zian Fleming first and foremost. Looks like quite an exciting pickup for the Lions. 23-year-old attacking midfielder has arrived from Fortuna Sittard. 12 goals and 3 assists last time out for the player. Looks like a real creative option. We've seen Jed Wallis depart the new den this summer. He has now joined West Bromwich Albion. There was, perhaps avoiding creativity. It sounds like Fleming could add that. What do you make of this deal?
I can't profess to watching too much of the Eredivisie, but it does seem to be a pretty exciting signing. I think Millwall brought the transfer record as well for him, so that kind of speaks volumes. They rate him really highly. I think he scored 24 times in the last 2 seasons, and I think there's about 11 assists as well. So he's definitely got creativity running through his body, and I think Jed Wallis has got big boots. He's got big boots to fill in Jed Wallis's, but I think from what he's done in Holland, which is a decent league, he should, fit right into the English style. I think Millwall are definitely kind of trying to go for it and push on. They're probably losing out with Wallis to West Brom's probably hit them pretty hard, but they've reacted pretty quickly and made some really good signings, and they weren't too far off the playoffs last season. So I think the board have now just seen that, and they've kind of given Gary Rowett what he wants, and they still probably need a few more in defence, but they're looking very promising at the minute, and Fleming's a really exciting signing for my mind.
Yeah, it does look like a really exciting addition for sure. Chris, let's just briefly touch on Benik and George Honeyman. Millwall fans no stranger to what Afobe can do. Had a fairly productive campaign at the New Den last season. Did look like he was going to sign for Club Brugge, but that deal fell through and Millwall swooped in to sign him. And let's just touch on George Honeyman, I suppose, in a bit more detail. He seems to me like a player that Millwall fans will really like. He's got lots of energy, likes to buzz around the middle of the park, will give his all. What do you think of this addition in particular, the George Honeyman one?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, as you said there, he's the sort of player that fans like. I think if you look at the Hull support's reaction to him leaving, there was a lot of disappointment. Maybe they could understand that he wants to try and play more games, get more minutes. But yeah, there was a real a sadness because he is the sort that you like. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's passionate. He gets about, and yeah, I think the Millwall fans will take to him. But I think more importantly, he adds a bit more quality than say Ballard had, who's obviously left in the summer. I think he's got that little bit more quality on the ball, which Millwall need, to be honest, especially without Wallis. They need someone who can progress the ball up the pitch, and I think he's a good all-round midfielder, and I think he'll be a key player pretty quickly for them. I think this is the three very good signings for them.
Yeah, on paper, these do look like three very promising additions for Millwall heading into the new campaign. Right, we've got a couple more done deals coming up for you next. Okay, Rotherham United have added a new striker to their ranks. They have completed the signing of Tom Eaves following his departure from Hull City. Rotherham were in the market for a new forward following Michael Smith's exit to Sheffield Wednesday. Ben, let's just briefly touch on this one. For the Millers, what do you make of this one? Can he fill that void left by Smith, or are you not so sure?
Well, they're definitely similar players, aren't they? Being big target men, but I'm not convinced that he's going to score the goals that will keep them in the Championship. I think Smith scored 10 times when they were the last in this league, and Eaves scored 5 times for Hull last season. I think you definitely know what you're going to get with Eaves, but I don't think goals at this level is probably that. He probably needs someone pacey alongside him as well. They've already signed Connor Washington, who left Charlton. I'm not sure that duo is going to be enough to keep the Millers in the Championship, so they probably need to go out and maybe get a Premier League loan or another decent free agent to come in and help them. But I think certainly as a Smith replacement, as a target man, he'll be a good addition, but I'm just not sure he'll score the goals that Rotherham will need.
Yeah, big boots to fill for Tom Eaves at the New York Stadium ahead of their Championship campaign next season. Just briefly touch on another done deal we touched on earlier on in this show. West Brom have completed the signing of Jed Wallis on a free transfer. The Jed Wallis saga seemed to rumble on for months on end, but he has now arrived at the Hawthorns to add to Steve Bruce's attacking Arsenal for next season. Chris, we'll just come to you on this one. This seems like a really top bit of business for West Brom, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think Bruce made it clear that he needed more creativity and a bit more spark, and then they've gone out and got John Swift and Jed Wallis, two of the better players in the Championship, for doing just that. So yeah, I think Albion fans should be delighted with the early business that they've done. It's been they're free agents as well. I presume they'll be picking up pretty hefty wages, but to get those two players on a free is still excellent business. But more importantly, it strengthens the team where they're desperately lacking. I think he's going with the back four next year, Bruce. If you've got Wallis, Swift, and then Carlin Grant maybe playing off DK, that's pretty formidable front four, to be honest, for the Championship. So yeah, they deserve credit for acting quickly, and I think they're maybe a midfielder short, maybe one more defender, but other than that, they're looking pretty well set for the new season. I think most of them, because of that front four, will have them in the mix to go up automatically.
Yeah, I think you'd struggle to find any drawbacks in that particular deal. Jed Wallis joining West Bromwich Albion on a free transfer. Right, next we're going to touch on some of the latest EFL transfer rumours and gossip. Keane Lewis Potter looks like he could be leaving the MKM Stadium very soon. Brentford have submitted a renewed £20 million bid for the Hull City winger. The deal is £16 million up front with £4 million in add-ons. Hull City are yet to respond to the offer from Thomas Frank's side, but the Bees have long been interested in the England under-21 international. He is such a key player in that Tigers team. Ben, we'll come to you then. Akin Ilikali has previously said that he doesn't want to sell Keane Lewis Potter, but this bid does seem quite sizable and one you feel that Hull might just have to accept. What's your sort of stance on it?
Yeah, I think it looks more likely now to be happening than not. I think Brentford have been really persistent ever since last summer on trying to get Lewis Potter, and now he reverted to a front three. I think he'd definitely fit really well alongside Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo in that trio. I know Ilakali said that he wouldn't even sell for 30 million last month, but you have to be a little bit realistic when it comes to this. He can reinvest that money into the team, different positions, can get strengthened. And look, we know they've already bid in the millions for players this summer. The likes of Scott Twine, they've made a serious player for, so there's definitely money there, and we know the ambition that Ilakali's got to take them back to the Premier League. But I think Lewis Potter's head may have now been turned by the Premier League interest, and when that happens, I think it's best just to get the biggest fee possible. And I think 20 million's a very reasonable fee for him. He's got a high ceiling, he's still got a lot of developing to do, but I think for a championship wing, he's kind of in the Jared Bowen kind of price tag. It's a very good deal for Hull if it comes off.
Yeah, this would be Brentford's club record fee. It would surpass the £13 million they paid for Christopher Ayer last season. Chris, just very, very briefly on this one. If you're Hull City and you receive a bid of this magnitude, would you be accepting it?
Yeah, I would. I think it's a more than fair price. I think 20 million, like as Ben touched on with Bowen. I think you look at Maddison, that's for the top end championship players over the years, and Lewis Potter's probably not at that level. He's close, and obviously the potential. But I think you have to accept that, and then use the money to go with what they have to strengthen the squad, because there is still a lot of work that needs doing.
Okay, there we go. Brentford closing in on a deal for Keane Lewis Potter at Hull City. The latest we are hearing is that a £20 million bid has been placed for the winger. Okay, another deal that seems fairly close to concluding, and that is Zac Steffes to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough have been in the market for a new goalkeeper in this summer transfer window, have been linked to an array of players, including the likes of Carl Darlow and Daniel Everson, but it looks like Zac Steffes will be the one at the Riverside for next season. He has been Manchester City's number 2 over the last couple of seasons, but looks like they are signing Stefan Ortega to be the new number 2 at the Etihad Stadium. So Steffes looks set to conclude a season-long loan deal at Middlesbrough. Chris, we'll just come to you then on this one. On the face of it, it looks like a good solution for Middlesbrough, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent deal. I think we've said time and time again, however, they needed to change the goalkeeping situation. Luke Daniels and Joe Lumley just weren't up to it last year, and Wilder has wasted little time, hasn't he? He's brought Liam Roberts in from Northampton, who's going to be a good number 2, but they still needed that top goalie at this level. And I think in Stefan, they're getting someone who certainly fits the bill on that front. I think at Man City, obviously, he's struggled for game time, and I think some maybe remember that FA Cup semi-final when he wasn't great with his feet. But overall, this is someone who I think he's won nearly 30 caps for the USA. Every chance he starts the World Cup as their number 1. So, this is a real, I'd say it's a real statement signing for Borough, and it solves that major problem that they had. And now they need to focus on strikers, I think, once this is over the line.
Yeah, our Middlesbrough fan pundit Dana Malt admits she was very surprised when this transfer news emerged, but equally is really, really excited about this one. Zac Steffes on the verge of joining Middlesbrough on a season-long loan deal. Right, let's touch on a Football League World exclusive. We understand that Millwall, Burnley and Sunderland are all eyeing Will Smallbone's situation at Southampton. The Saints are deciding on whether to loan him out for next season, and that has alerted a number of EFL clubs. Smallbone has featured a handful of times for the Saints over the last few seasons. Isn't a regular starter there, but they do rate him very highly at St Mary's, only 20 years of age. Ben, we'll just come to you briefly on this one. Smallbone looks like a player that could do with a championship loan move. Do you think any of them sort of aforementioned clubs could be a good fit for him?
I think all of them potentially could. I think he had a really bad knee injury about a year and a half ago, which has probably halted his development. And Southampton have probably not got the most solid of midfield options, but there's still enough to keep him out of the team. And I think a championship move could really, be be the making of him. I think all three teams that have been linked, Millwall, Burnley, Sunderland, could do with a bit more creativity in the midfield. Although I think Millwall have got more than enough options right now, and they might have to get rid of one or two. I think Sunderland could be an interesting one. I think aside from Dan Neil in the engine room, there's not a massive amount of creativity there, and Smallbone could fit the bill. And we know that Sunderland are an attractive proposition for players, as we'll touch on in a minute. So I think there could be a good location for Smallbone if he does go out on loan. But he's definitely needing some game time in the EFL, because it doesn't look like he's going to get much of a chance at Southampton next season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Smallbone's future. As we alluded to, Southampton haven't made their mind up yet with regards to whether to loan Smallbone out, but Millwall, Sunderland and Burnley are keeping tabs on his situation. Right, we've got a couple more transfer rumours coming up for you next. Hey, it looks like we've got another deal that's edging ever closer to completion, and that is Dan Ballard to Sunderland. He has completed a medical, if reports are to be believed, at the Stadium of Light. Millwall were keen on the signature of Dan Ballard, but it looks like Sunderland now are going to win the race to sign the 22-year-old from Arsenal. Ben, will come to you then on this. Ballard was excellent for Millwall last season, has plenty of experience in the EFL, a player that, again, has a really high ceiling and is at such a young age, but has that sort of, potential to develop into something really special. For Sunderland, this looks like a really, really good signing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He's played well for Blackpool and Millwall. He's a full Northern Ireland international. I think Arsenal, obviously, it'd be very hard to get in there, but I think he does need a couple more years at Championship level, at least one, to prove he's going to be a Premier League defender in the long term. And for the fee that was banded about earlier in the week for the Burnley deal, which is around 2 million, I think, if Sunderland are getting in for that, then it's a very good signing. I think he's a player they could, with his best years ahead of him, they could make a lot of money on him in the future. And I think that's definitely a position where Sunderland needed to bolster. I think Callum Doyle, burnt out in the last few months of the season when he was on loan from Manchester City, and I just think they needed someone a little bit more solid at the back. And I think Ballard provides that. He's very, very tall and he's very comfortable on the ball, so he's perfect fit for Sunderland, and it just proves that they're a team that players want to join. He'll be playing in front of 30,000 players every week, and they're a big draw, even though they've been in League One for 4 years.
Yeah, I think he's a player that Sunderland fans will really, really grow to like. Dan Ballard, on the verge of joining Sunderland. A medical has supposedly been completed for the Arsenal player to join the Black Cats. Okay, then just a handful more EFL transfer rumours to bring you up to speed. Fulham, of course, promoted to the Premier League from the Championship last season. They are eyeing a move for Coventry City central midfielder Gus Hamer. Again, if reports are to be believed, the 25-year-old Brazilian is a real fan favourite at the CBS Arena, a real combative, industrious central midfielder with a real eye for a pass. Ben, we'll come to you then once more on this one. Hamer, is a real talent in the Championship. He's really impressed at Coventry since arriving from the Netherlands. Is he a player that could add to Fulham's current midfield contingent? And do you think he's a player that's good enough for the Premier League?
Definitely think he's got the skill set to play in the Premier League. I think there's been quite a few clubs interested in what he's done at Coventry. He's definitely a very creative but also tenacious midfielder. He can pretty much do it all. He's a bit hot-headed as well, so you have to worry about it when it comes to being disciplined on the pitch. But I think Fulham definitely need to add one or two players to the engine room. I think at the minute they've got Harrison Reed and Nathaniel Chalobah, so it's definitely somewhere that needs improving for the top flight. I know they've been linked with the Portugal international Palhinha from Sporting Club Portugal. So I think if Hamer is wanted, I think Fulham would have to splash out a fee similar to what they'll be giving Sporting for Palhinha. I don't know if they'll spend two big fees in on two different midfielders like that. I think Coventry would be holding out for an 8-figure fee for Hamer, based on what he's done and based on what he can do in the future. So I'd be surprised if Hamer does go to Fulham, and I can see Coventry holding firm this summer on him.
Yeah, you'd imagine he's a player that Mark Robins will want to keep hold of if they're sort of if they want to better their position from last season. We've seen them rebuff a number of bids for Victor Gyökeres as well. Middlesbrough placed a bid for Gyökeres, but it fell well under the value that Coventry placed him at. That's that. Fulham eyeing Gus Hamer this summer, but as of yet, there's been no advancement in that particular transfer deal. Right, we've got one more coming up for you next. Right, let's touch on Joao Pedro then at Watford. Chris, Benfica and Porto are two sides looking to sign the 20-year-old Brazilian from the Hornets this summer. Watford are actively not looking to sell Joao Pedro this summer, but if a transfer bid comes in of a magnitude that they're happy with, they will accept a deal for that to go through. Chris, let's just come to you then. Joao Pedro, is he a player that Watford need to keep hold of? And most importantly, do you think he's a player they will keep hold of?
I think he's one they do need to keep hold of. Yeah, I think he's the first year when they won promotion, was it 2 years ago now? He was showing real flashes that this guy could be a really good player. I think in the Premier League didn't exactly go to plan, but there was obviously a step up in level, and he wasn't playing all the time. But I think you mentioned his age, he's still only 20, so you're looking at someone who's got a lot of time ahead of them, and he does have a lot of quality. So I think if Rob Edwards was asked now and the owners made it clear, then Pedro would be the main man, I think, going forward for them in attack. So I think normally you do everything you can to keep him, but I think it becomes a bit complicated when you have clubs the size of Benfica and Porto showing an interest, because they're like huge clubs that can offer European football. I think Porto, obviously, Champions League, and more importantly, they've shown over the years to young players that they're the ideal club to be a stepping stone to take you to the real elite. Obviously, Darwin Núñez, the latest example of that, going to Liverpool. So I think if this interest does formalise in a bid from either of the clubs, that then Watford are going to have a real job on their hands to convince him to stay. And when a player wants to leave nowadays, you just make sure you get the best price, really. I think that you'd be looking 20 to 25 million, that sort of ballpark. But so if he does want to go and you get those numbers, I think you probably do agree to a sale. But if not, and if you can convince him to stay, then you've got to try and do that, because he could be key to them next season to get back to the Premier League and then moving forward.
Yeah, I suppose Joao Pedro is among a cluster of Watford players that could well leave Vicarage Road this summer. It's made Sarr, Emmanuel Dennis in that sort of clutch of players that could well depart. We have seen, of course, Philip Zinkernagel leave the club, as has Cucho Hernandez. Right, there we go. That's the future of Joao Pedro. Benfica and Porto are interested in the Brazilian this summer, but as of yet, no formal transfer approach has been made by either. Right, well, that brings this week's EFL Transfer Zone show to a close. Once again, we could have filled this show with about 20 to 50 more transfer rumours, but we just don't have the time. We hope everyone enjoyed today's show. Thanks to everyone that got yourself in the comments and watched the live stream. If you're watching this on repeat on YouTube, please do stick a like in below this video and subscribe to Football League World TV. We've got so much more exciting and interesting content coming up on the channel over the coming weeks. We are now, of course, only 1 month away from the EFL season kicking off. Huddersfield taking on Burnley on the 29th of July. Right, well, from myself, Ben, and Chris, we shall see you next time.